Three, two, one, go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Child of the Force podcast, a podcast from three Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. This is season 2, episode 19, and we know we haven't done a regularly scheduled episode in a while, so we're just going to jump in and start talking about some of that new awesome context that we are getting from Star Wars and will be getting from Star Wars, because clearly Star Wars is not dead. So we have some stuff that it is going to be canon, like all the really cool stuff that's happening with the High Republic, and we have some stuff that is not going to be canon, which is what's coming on the next show, Visions, which we will be getting in September, and we got a first look recently. So when they first started announcing new content, I was actually really excited about Visions because I am a huge anime nerd as well. So I thought the idea was really cool. And now when we got that first look, my mind was blown. I thought everything looked amazing. But I kind of want to hear from one of our co-hosts who usually doesn't care one way or the other about anime. So Goose, what did you think?
I will disappoint everyone by saying that my opinion has not been swayed. I still am indifferent towards anime. The trailer did. I mean, I'm not saying the trailer was bad. I'm saying that it didn't do anything to get me excited. It does look good. It does look good. It does look interesting. The artwork looks like there's a lot of passion behind it, but it's not something. It's not made for me, and I think that's great. They're doing something that caters to a different group of people. Obviously, I'll watch it because more Star Wars is better than no Star Wars, despite what some jaded fans out there might say. I still think that even if it's not made for you, the fact that the fact that Lucasfilm is pumping out new Star Wars content is a positive for everybody, especially things like this that are completely left field from what they've done before. So even though it's not kind of like catered for my taste, I still think it's a great thing that they're doing because there's so many other people that are passionate about that. So to tell Star Wars stories in this way that is so evocative and for the passions of a lot of different people that really enjoy it, I think it's just a great thing. So that's my politically correct answer.
What do you think, Mo?
Excited to see Star Wars from a non-white lens. That's for sure. Especially from more. I don't know if they're all Japanese or if there might be from other countries, but especially that cultural aspect to it. I saw I was excited for that Astro Boy looking character that they're like. I'm like, it's like an homage to those first animes, and being able to kudos to Lucasfilm to just being able to just let go of the reins on this. I don't know if they did, but it does seem that way compared to everything else. In which it seems that the creators have their own unique palette, their own unique aspects, and at the end of the day, it's just gonna make Star Wars that much richer. If human stories have thousands of variants every time,
variants. I see what you did there.
What I did there. Then it would make total sense that stories from a galaxy far, far away would have plethora of interpretations and different what's important to them, and not just step away from everything that we've been accustomed to. So I'm excited for it. I'm definitely more excited than what I was for Bad Batch when I saw the trailer. But hopefully there's no letdown, but I'm excited for how it's gonna unfold.
Yeah, I'm definitely really excited. Especially because that a lot of Star Wars has been inspired by the Japanese aesthetic and stuff. So now to see Star Wars through their eyes and how they see it and how they're going to animate it, and you can see how you said, Mo, that there's all different schools of animation happening in this one show, because you have some of the creators really wanted to go really old school looking anime. Other ones are the more futuristic kinds. One is doing a story of an old man Jedi, like an old man Logan kind of thing. And the combination, like katanas are super cool, and like combining the katana with like the lightsaber, I think it's going to be amazing. So there's so many cool aspects just visually, but also like seeing Star Wars, from a different cultural perspective, and how it has influenced them as well. Because all the creators that were talking, they were like, "Oh my God, Star Wars! I get to do something with Star Wars." They were so excited about it, and these are like huge studios, like huge names in Japan. So to see the impact of Star Wars it's amazing to see, even for people that are not into anime, just seeing that this is possible right now. And then the fact that it's not supposed to be canon and they just kind of let them do whatever they wanted, I think it's going to be fantastic, because they don't have to stick to the tropes and the themes that they usually stick to in Star Wars. Like they could just take their own imaginative perspective to it. So, and the fact that each one's going to be completely separate from the other, like there might be ones that you don't like, others that you love, so it just like opens it up so much. So I'm definitely really looking forward to September. And
I think that's the best part of it, to be honest. The non-canonicity of it is the best move that Lucasfilm could have done, honestly. And I saw like online a lot of some of the discourse of fanboys getting butthurt about canon. It's like, oh, but it's not canon. Like, what's the point of having the Lucasfilm story group if they're not? It's like, dudes, it's like if consistency in your storytelling is really like gonna get in the way of your enjoyment of storytelling, then you're focusing on the wrong thing. And so
which I think yes, because they're probably the first ones to be like, oh, we hate Disney for taking out all the legend stuff.
Exactly.
Which had no
so it's like I think it's genius that like some of that this Visions thing isn't canon, because because I would imagine myself being in the position of these anime studios where I'm just used to doing whatever I want, and then Lucasfilm comes up to me and say, "Oh, we want you to tell your Star Wars story, but then but you can't do this and you can't do that because you have to fit here and it has to be in this timeline and this character." And it's like it kind of takes away like that freedom of just doing like the story you want to do. So I think
those creative juices.
Exactly. So I think just taking away the restrictions of canon and just letting them go crazy with it is it's absolutely the best decision for it, because then we get like unfiltered, creativity that can only work to be more genuine and heartfelt storytelling. So I think it's a great move. And that's not to say that like if any of these stories like really click with people or something that Lucasfilm wants to explore further, that they can be like, okay, well, we'll take elements of this and like start.
We could do this.
Incorporate it. So probably it's storytelling. It's fluid. We shouldn't get upset. I don't think this is something like get upset over like some people are. I mean,
whatever.
I want more freedom.
Honestly, if it bothers you that much, then maybe that's not your media to consume. Maybe you need something else. Like
if you want like something that's canon and rigid, maybe you should I don't know, get into history or something, because history that's history is everything.
Even history has different perspectives.
And even that
exactly. But at least with that you can like, okay, well, let's find out what's actually I don't know, maybe that's more your thing than like historicity, more so than like fake space wizards and walking dogs and that fly spaceships.
That's what I
maybe
love.
That's not for you.
That's what I love, that people get so butthurt about fake space wizards. Like seriously,
it's like it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, and it never existed. And like it's like we make and when I say we, I mean the royal we make the rules for it. It's like, and if we just like we make the rules, we can change the rules. So it's maybe if you need that much rigidity, in your life, join the military. Or go to Star Trek. No, but even Star Trek is messed up now because JJ threw in the alternate timeline with the Kelvin stuff in the new movie. So maybe join the military. They'll give you structure there. They'll tell you what you have to do. Maybe that'll work out better instead of, fantasy, epic space fantasy, space operas. Not for you, clearly.
Which the main point is supposed to be entertainment. And then us as individuals take whatever it is that we want from them and apply it to our lives whichever way we want. So, I mean, you can't just like base your life on, this was this way like 2 years ago. Now it has to be this way again. mean, there's
like the
different perspectives
lightsaber
to
was
everything.
green in one story and then blue in another one. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
is it annoying? Maybe it can get annoying, but does it really change the point of what you're supposed to receive from the story? I don't know. I think that's, and I think this is only positive, the fact that Visions is not canon, because it opens the door for more
Yeah.
collaborations like this,
Yeah.
of doing
And
like
more ideas
more weird
to pop
Star
up
Wars
and
stories.
Mhm.
Like one thing that was floating around that I think was like on Star Wars Explained or something, they were talking about this opening the door for maybe having a series similar to the What If stuff that Marvel's going to be doing now, but with Star Wars. I mean, I think that could be interesting too. I mean, this opens a lot of possibilities of storytelling, and it removes the rigidity of canon and just opens the door to exploring more stories. I mean, we'll still have that canon, obviously, but more is good. We should like unrestrain ourselves and just allow for more variety in our storytelling. But I don't know. I get upset when people get upset about stupid things.
Well, I think we are looking forward definitely to Vision. So we'll talk about Visions when Visions comes out. But we have been actually getting a lot of High Republic stuff coming, and that is canon. But I feel at the same time it is a less restrained because it happened so far away in the past that the creators have a lot more freedom with what they can do, because it's like, oh, we're not just talking about the Skywalker family, so everything has to be documented exactly the same way.
Yeah, thank God, no Skywalkers.
So regretfully, I haven't had the opportunity to get that much into High Republic. I apologize, fans. But
that's the beauty of the triad.
Goose. That's why we have a triad.
There's definitely different ways to consume the things that we love, and there is no one right way. And I think that's one of the cool things about the High Republic, is that they're offering. It's a publishing effort, right? It's kind of reminded me when they announced it a couple years back of the multimedia effort that they did for Shadows of the Empire back in the 90s with the video game and the novel and the score and the comic books and stuff, and everything was tied together. But synergy. But there's like, I think 1-2 massive differences between like how the Shadows of the Empire multimedia project existed versus how the High Republic publishing effort exists. And it's that one, Shadows of the Empire is basically the one story, right? Between bridging the gap between Empire and Return of the Jedi, what happened after, Han Solo and the Dash Rendar stuff. And it was the one story, but it was spread across like multiple mediums, like especially the ones that are more pertinent to like what I'm going to contrast it with on the High Republic. It's the video game and the music aspect. So it was like something that transcended the publishing effort, right? So it jumped the medium in that way, versus we're in the High Republic where it's a way bigger story. So it's like all of these interconnected stories that are happening through comic books, adult novels, YA novels, younger reader books, and stuff like that. So it's way more ambitious in the kind of story that it wants to tell. But so far, it's obviously limited to publishing, as I mentioned before. So only comics and books, which I hope that changes. I hope that there's a point where it kind of, I've said this before, I think, where Jedi Fallen Order has like a prequel game or spin-off game where it's like Jedi High Republic or Risen Order or something like this, where it's just like, oh, what? We're going to bring all these characters now to video games and kind of harken back a little bit to all of that Shadows of the Empire era of multimedia publishing efforts that they did back then. But I don't know. So far, I've been like very, very impressed with the High Republic and how strong the interconnectivity of like all these stories are. I mean, for anyone that we were talking about people complaining about canon, like for anyone that loves like consistency in canon, I think High Republic is should be your jam, because like all of the books are interconnected and some of the books even happen concurrently to other ones. So like you see something in from one perspective in one book, and then the other book kind of plugs in the other perspective and then takes off in the other direction, and something else that's happening. So it's really ambitious. It's really ambitious, and so it's really fun. And I think one of the great things about it is that you can place yourself at any point of the story, and it, and you get what you put into it. In a way, it's like if you only read the comics, that's great. You can enjoy them because they stand alone. But if you read the comics and then you read some of the books, then you kind of start seeing like some of the crossovers that's there, because sometimes the book mentions something that's happening in the comics and vice versa. So you start kind of getting that payoff if you start reading all the other things. So I think it's great in that sense too, because you can enjoy it however you want, but the more you dig into it, the more reward you get for yourself. I mean, it's not about reward. The reward is enjoying the story in of itself, but you know what I mean. So currently I'm reading The Rising Storm, which is this is a special edition over there, nerds. So it's the second adult book in the series. So it's the sequel to Light of the Jedi. I haven't finished it. I don't know how you people on the Twitterverse read your books so fast. So I'm doing my darndest to finish this thing, but
you got this.
It's taking me some time.
Take your time. Enjoy it. Because why else were you to like just consume it just because?
No need to rush.
Enjoy.
Right.
Yeah.
It is very enjoyable. I think one of the cool things about this second wave so far has been that it feels a little more freer than Light of the Jedi did, because Light of the Jedi felt when it was beginning that it was kind of doing a lot of heavy lifting in terms of setting up the world and doing the world building and introducing everything. So it was a little like jarring at some point when you're like starting to read it. It's like, who are all these people? So that's a lot of work. Not that the book isn't enjoyable. I thought it one of the best Star Wars books I read in a while, but it did a lot of setup, so it was kind of rougher to read than Rising Storm. Rising Storm so far has been a treat. Since everything's set up, it's kind of like you can just hit the ground running.
So that's normal. I mean, when there's a lot of world building, it can get a little bit like overly descriptive and tedious. But I think when you put in the work to do all the world building, it eventually pays off. So clearly, by what you're saying, it did pay off. So
so for fans like myself who hasn't read any of the what is the High Republic? Like, where does
so the high?
What's happening? I can.
That's a fantastic question. I'm glad you asked. The High Republic is basically an era of Star Wars. It's either 200 or 300 years before the events of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So it's the Jedi at their peak, basically. So it's like when they're the most connected to the Force before their downfall, and during the rise of the Empire, when their vision got clouded by the dark side and their hubris and whatnot. So this is like the Jedi at their purest and most powerful. Also, the Republic is at its highest as well, when it's like an institution of good, and not like the institution of bureaucracy and corruption that we see during the prequels. So that's more or less like that world that the High Republic sets up. It will tie into like live action with the Acolyte, because the Acolyte will be like towards the end of the era called the High Republic. So we might see a couple centuries, right, that the era lasted. So I don't know what will tie into the Acolyte, but we'll see. But that in a nutshell is what the High Republic is. And the conflict of the books that starts everything is what's called the Great Disaster. So basically, this is an era of expansion for the Republic, where they haven't been to the outer rim yet. And the technology is not as good as the technology that we have, obviously, in the prequels and the original trilogy. So communication isn't as good. Like the hyperspace lanes haven't all been mapped out yet. So there's dangers, right, relating to going into the outer rim. So the Republic and the Jedi are setting up these outposts, and one of the outposts they set up, which is called Starlight Beacon, is like one of the projects that the Chancellor of the Republic at the time, called Lina So, she's a badass who has two giant lions that you can see here. That's her. These are the lions. She's pretty dope. She has like what's called the Great Works, that are like works that she's doing like as part of the Republic in terms of expansion, so she can like grow the Republic and show that it's a force for positivity out for the planets that haven't joined it. But while they're preparing to open Starlight Beacon, the outpost in the Outer Rim, there is a disaster in one of the hyperspace lanes where there's a ship that like collides with something, and like there's a massive threat that obviously, you come out of hyperspace, all the debris is coming out of hyperspace. So that's, if you know a little bit of science, you know that shit traveling at hyperspace coming towards a planet, not so good. So they have to, the Jedi have to deal with this occurrence that was caused by this group called the Nile, obviously a reference to nihilism. So there's a group of marauders and pirates, anarchists in a way, that like want to destabilize the Republic, because the Republic obviously stands for everything that they're for, stands against everything they're for. So that's what sets up that conflict with this group, and then it branches off from there into like all the various stories that are happening so far with the YA stuff, the main adult level readers, and then the comic books. I don't know if that answers the question.
that gave a good background. It gave rise to a lot more questions.
Questions are good.
Yeah, questions are good.
but yes, no, that's a good background, like knowing where it's coming from. I'm starting to see why they eventually fell into the hubris, calling like grand plans and everything. Like, just call it a plan. Like, you don't have to give it like an all-out name. But so in this case, like, what is the purpose of the Jedi? Are they one with the Republic? Are they like because like in the prequels, they're more like they're puppet in a way. Like, whatever the Republic says, the Jedi follows. Is it the same relationship?
Yes and no. I mean, they're still there. They have as Qui-Gon would say, they have a symbiotic relationship with the Republic. And I mean, goes to what Mace Windu said, right, in Attack of the Clones. They're keepers of the peace, not soldiers, right? So they are a peacekeeping force, and they work in tandem with the Republic, but it's not to the level, right, that we see with obviously the Clone Wars, where they're, the military branch of the Republic. So the Republic here isn't militarized, but they have, the Jedi are a little bit I mean, it's complicated because it's one of those things where I can see the writers being like, oh, but the Jedi can't be the warriors, because they have to be the peacekeepers. But then it's just like, but that's a very boring book if the Jedi aren't out there kicking ass. But they got their lightsabers. But it's really interesting though, because with the lightsaber specifically, because the books really make a point to say that the Jedi are not really used to lightsaber to lightsaber combat, because there haven't been Sith for millennia. That like there's not people don't really want to fight with the Jedi because they're the reputation is so strong at this point that people are kind of like bad people are afraid of them, good people are in awe of them, so they haven't really had chance to like be
lightsaber duels.
So it's really interesting how they frame it, because it's like it shows that for them, like, lightsaber duels are a sparring competition, and like not sparring competition, it's like more exhibition things, and like and it's an academic ritual for them, right, to learn how to do
training
lightsabers
and stuff like that.
So it's really interesting how they frame the Jedi in this way, especially with how they're connected to the Force. Or more liberal. We see in the like these Jedis have sex. It happens. It happens. They get in the under the sheets. So they're more liberal in more ways than in more. In
so
more
the
ways
like
than,
celibacy thing was something that they like instituted later on, maybe, or
so no. So technically, it's more or less what Anakin says in Attack of the Clones, where a Jedi is encouraged to love, right? But what's still forbidden is the attachment, right?
the
So
love.
like,
Yeah.
exactly. So you can't be attached to something. So it's interesting because it ties into I don't know if we discussed. We discussed that a bit when we were talking about Qui-Gon, the Master and Apprentice book by Claudia Gray. So there's a character called Rael Averross, who's like if Qui-Gon is the liberal Jedi, this is like the like extreme liberal Jedi, who also is very flexible with how he interprets the Jedi code. So that Jedi was kind of like opening the doors to like how these Jedi behave in a way, but where him and Master and Apprentice was a little more oh my god, what's the word I'm looking for? Rebels and oh my god, I forgot the word. I was in a role here, and then I got all flustered. I was gonna say nepotism, but nepotism is not the word. Oh my god, to enjoy. What the fuck is that word? Now I need to find it because I'm not gonna be able to rest.
So in a way, the rules are more like guidelines. They're not technically rules at this moment.
In a way, it's kind of like guidelines. Because they're still, for example, like these Jedi I was talking about, they still try to detach themselves from attachments in the way that like romantic attachments like we used in the prequels, but they still aren't afraid to care a little bit more than like the Jedis we've been used to seeing that are like completely cold and detached. So there's like an interpretation of like how they see how attachments form. So they're way more open and more caring and empathetic than we're used to seeing. So I think it's a nice change of pace to see Jedis kind of deal with their emotions a little more mature and have sex a bit more maturely than the other Jedis were used to.
Well, I mean, maybe the rules were eventually established because something went wrong during this era that would spurn them to be like more strict about it. Or it's also a bastardization because, you know, as like history goes on, like people become extremists in the way that they believe. So maybe it started off this way, you know, because attachment, you know, will lead to, you know, bad things if the person you're attached to ends up dying, like what happened with Anakin, obviously. But the extremism that they do in the later Jedi, because they're so cold, it makes it even worse because you don't feel empathy for anybody. So when you try to reach out for help, you don't feel like you're going to be listened to, which again is what happened to Anakin. So, I mean, it is a good take to see, you know, kind of both sides and how it evolves, like this mythology of and religion, which is like the Jedi is a religion. So I think it's
I'm
cool.
Just like, when you said that, Nani, I'm just seeing like there was probably Yoda had like a bad relationship and then was like, nobody can have a relationship from now on because nobody's alive. So.
I mean, Yoda is obviously alive at this point, and he shows up in some of the comic books. I haven't read those specifically, but what I've seen, even Yoda is more liberal here, and a little bit more of his quirky Empire Strikes Back mischievous self, more than the kind of dogmatic one that we see in the prequels. So that's interesting. I mean, I can't speak too much for it because I haven't read it, but it's you know it's cool to see something that's, you know, wildly different to what we're used to. It's one of those things where it's like different but familiar. So it's a good mixture of both in that sense. So I mean, High Republic so far has been a breath of fresh air. You know, and I appreciate a lot that we have like those stories going on, also like the Thrawn books that are the new ones that are coming out, because it's detached right from the Skywalker saga and it's doing its own thing in a completely different era, even though like the Thrawn books are still like in the same era as the movies, but since it's in the out, since it's in the unknown
it's
regions,
a different
it's like
story.
it's its own thing. So you can tell that kind of Star Wars is thriving in that sense when it's not constrained by like tying itself to canon, tying itself to Skywalkers and what the Palpatine, how many clones the Palpatine make of himself, so that he could, so that it could fight itself, and it's not burdened by any of that. So it's nice to have Star Wars do that and feel refreshed in that way. So hopefully High Republic opens the gates for more storytelling like this, set in completely different eras as well, like even Old Republic, or like in the future of Star Wars, or the descendants of Rey's Jedi Academy or something. So that's kind of what's happening with High Republic in a nutshell. So I will open the floor to questions now.
So basically, you kind of stuck to the adult novels so far and the Thrawn books and stuff. Have you read any of like the YA and the comics and stuff?
Yeah, I read this one, which is Into the Dark, which is Claudia Gray. I mean, if Claudia Gray is hailed by a lot of the fandom as one of the best Star Wars writers out there. So I was like, well, it's a Claudia Gray book, so I have to read it because everyone says that she's the bee's knees. And the book did not disappoint. I think I talked about this with you once, Nani. Like, I have for some reason been apprehensive about YA books in a totally discriminatory and logic in an illogical way. I'm like, no YA because I'm a grown up. God damn it!
YA is pretty good.
Exactly. I'm not a little kid. But
I'm not a
I
tween.
got over I got over myself and bought that one. So that's the first YA book I've read in a long time, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. I mean, it's like, just because it's YA doesn't mean that it's not, that the themes aren't there, or that it's not good storytelling. It's just that it has younger protagonists than the other books. So it was very good. It was tied to a lot of things from the comic books, and then also comic books from The Rise of Kylo Ren, because in that story they're in a space station, and that space station happens to be the space station that then, like, centuries in the future, Snoke is having his base of command when he's tempting Ben to the dark side. So it was like, and I mean, and you can tell that it's like all these storytellers at Lucasfilm, all the writers are working on all of these separate projects, because the writer for The Rise of Kylo Ren comic book was Charles Soule, and Charles Soule wrote Light of the Jedi. So obviously, while he's writing that, High Republic is happening in the background. So they're like, okay, they're gonna drop little hints in all the other stories of all these High Republic stuff, and then all of a sudden High Republic's like, bam, payoff. So really good. I appreciate that. See, that's for all the canon people that like to complain. It's like, see, there you go. You got it. There you go. You got interconnectivity in your storytelling. So it's fun. But tying back to the YA question. So the next book that's gonna come out for YA is obviously the sequel. Well, it's not really sequel. They're spiritual sequels to each other, right? It'll be Out of the Shadows by Justina Ireland. So that'll be the next one. I think it comes out in maybe 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. So that's gonna be the next one on the bookshelf.
On the list.
Once maybe I'll be able to finish this by then. We'll see.
Wow, so it really is way more comprehensive than I thought. How all these stories. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. I really hadn't read much Star Wars. Like, I read the Aftermath books, and that's about it. And the Ahsoka book. Like, I never really got into like Star Wars reading, but I might change my tune now because it sounds like a lot of.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But it's way more comprehensive, right? Because what they announced was, I thought it was just gonna be like, it's not. I mean, it's planned, but I thought it was just gonna be, High Republic Publishing. But it's 3 phases, and each phase has its sub waves. So right now we're in wave 2 of phase 1. So like they seeing like how they have it planned. 1 it seems very ambitious, and then 2, it seems like there's an end game that like we're kind of going to, which I think it's very valuable to kind of have this planning ahead, because as we saw with the sequel trilogy, not that you have to have every piece planned out, but like kind of having an idea where things are going helps storytelling.
At least a general outline.
Right.
But maybe that's it. Maybe they're gonna do everything publishing, and then they'll do it like a movie, like trilogy, like encompassing the High Republic.
Well, I mean, it is supposed to be leading up to the Acolyte, right?
I don't think it leads into it. I don't think it leads into it. It's just that like there's, it's like they're, like this, touching.
It connects to it.
Yeah, it's touching fingers. It's like a tangential connection, not like, interlocks.
Yeah. But as far as we know, that's going to be the first like actual video media from like set in the High Republic is going to be the Acolyte, right? As far as we know, unless they like surprise us or something. I think High Republic will be really good for either obviously video game, like I mentioned. Yep.
But then 2, like an animated show would be the bee's knees, or it's just like it just reads so well, and the action is so. I mean, because Charles Soule, and then this is by Cavan Scott. I always pronounce it wrong. I'm sorry if you're listening to us. But like they are also comic book writers, so comic books are very visual. A very visual means, right? It has to convey action and ideas really quickly to get the point across, because obviously it's also a short medium by the nature of its publishing. So they really know how to like express like action really well in written way, and I think it's because how it translates from the comic book side of things. So in that sense, like it's really energetic. So I think it just would translate perfectly to the animated medium.
Well, and I think especially now with how visually stunning Bad Batch has been, I think it opens up for this kind of quality animation doing different stories that we have. And I think,
I mean, look at this. Tell me that wouldn't be like an awesome show, like all colorful. Amazing. And stuff.
Yeah, and the Disney Animation Studios is something else, really. And then Star Wars has proven itself like to have grown leaps and bounds in the last few years. Like the animation they're throwing out right now is like something to behold. So I would be really excited if they would animate older storylines about things that we know nothing about, and just get people more into this area of it, because I think not a lot of people read anymore, not as much as they used to, I don't feel like. And maybe if you got them really excited and did something to like promote it in the visual side, like more people would be into, the publishing side of it too. So.
And thankfully it's been doing, like, for everyone that says Star Wars is dead and no one reads this and the High Republic has been a failure. I mean, this new book, The Rising Storm, debuted it on the New York Times at number 4 last week, and it was number 5 this week. So it's like, and Light of the Jedi, when it came out, debuted at number 1. So it's like it's doing well. It's like, and people are reading it. So like this is one, good to prove the naysayers wrong, and then obviously even more good to keep it going.
Like you're saying, more Star Wars is
even if it sucks, it's still good because you're getting more. You're getting
Star Wars,
more.
And not everything has to be perfect. Like sometimes things are hit and miss. Like sometimes it doesn't work, but you learn from it, you make it better. Like just keep getting stories out there. That's what we want. So
or it's just not, or it's just not made for you, and you have to acknowledge that too. Maybe this is not the story that was made for you in mind. It was made for maybe your kids or completely different person. But speaking of having people in mind, I think another strong point about the High Republic publishing effort is that the writers are very cognizant of inclusion and representation. So the books really go out of their way a lot to, well, I mean, I don't like using that phrase, go out of your way, but for lack of a better term, they go out of their way to really represent like LGBTQ characters and like people of color and all that stuff that's like really good and lacking. And it does it in a very, it doesn't feel ham-fisted and be like, here you go. It's just organic to the universe. So it's good to see that is happening. in publishing. I just think that it needs now to move on from publishing.
Yeah, to translate
live
into the other medias.
action now. Because I mean, animation isn't it's doing some strides. It's still like a little not limited. It isn't doing as much, especially on the LGBTQ side of things. But at least in the representation of people of color, I think animation is doing better, but it still needs to do better.
Yeah.
And live action, we
know what's
obviously needs to there's miles behind, especially after Loki pulled the making Loki bisexual. I'm like, hey, Marvel beat you to the punch, Star Wars.
Yep.
So you gotta, if Marvel did it, they're under Disney. You can do it. It's time to do it.
Yep. Agreed.
Yep.
But good to see that at least in publishing, they're making strides toward that. So let's, keep hoping that it will translate into, some of the bigger media so it can be more impactful.
Absolutely.
That sounds really exciting. And how are they treating the Force and all this? Like, what's
it's the Force is one of the better parts that, I mean, I think it's all good, but and not to be toxic positivity, right? We can think about that some other time. But I think the books are really clicking, especially like with me. So I'm the target audience, I guess, at this point. But for the Force, I think that it's being used in a deeper way than the original, not the films necessarily, but how it was being viewed in that era of storytelling, right? Of the prequels to the sequels, like where the Force is kind of like this mysterious thing that's away from you that you can tap into, and it's mystical. And here it's still mystical, right? Because it's magic, but
it's less other.
But it's less other. It's more a part of you, and like each Jedi, they have a different type of connection to how they see the Force. Some Jedi see the Force as like flames, others see the Force as like music. So like each Jedi really cool. has a interest, has a unique connection to the Force, and it also does a good job at showing how the Force kind of ties people together through it. Especially the Jedi can do what's like they call in the books like a drift, which is a way of like using the Force to kind of connect everyone's consciousness so that they can like do greater deeds together and like have more power. And it's kind of like a spirit bomb, but instead of like Goku being the only one with the bomb, everyone is the bomb. You know what I mean? So the Force is, everything's better. Jedi are cooler. They have sex. They have cool Force powers. Their robes are gold and shit. Even some Jedi have double-bladed lightsabers. Some Jedi have lightsaber whips.
Wow.
And there's more lightsaber colors than just blue, and that's always a plus for me. Exactly. It's like some Jedi have purple lightsabers, some Jedi have yellow lightsabers. It's fantastic. I'm like, yes, diversity in lightsaber
Give
colors.
Me all the colors.
Yes, like all of it. Give it to me. It's great. It's great having like Jedi have weird weapons.
Like a multicolor saber.
It'll happen. That reminded me of Visions. I don't know if you guys saw that lightsaber that was like a black core, but it was glowing red, or the other way around. It was like a red core and glowing black. Something. I was like, ooh, that's a cool.
That's awesome.
Please bring that. I was like, please bring that into canon, please.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Make it Lucasfilm. Bring it. I need to see that in live action.
And the designs of the hilts, like they're katanas, like there's some gorgeousness happening in Visions too. But yeah, that I really liked what you said about how they describe how the Force is different to everybody. Like some of them, it's like depending on the person, and that makes sense. Like everybody reacts to everything around them differently, so the Force would speak to them in different ways, and you would express it in different ways back. So it's really cool that they're getting a chance to explore all of that, and that it's it's out there and it's canon. So that sounds really cool. As much as we like hate on sometimes canon, it's good to be like, yeah, that actually happened. That's real. If they later bring it on. So like the naysayers can't be like, oh, they brought out of that field. No. That is canon. So it's cool. And we're going to do it. And we're bringing it to the other media.
Yeah, so. I think this is what's valuable, right, about this discussion specifically, especially when we have like the discussion with visions at the beginning. It's like the two different types of storytellings that we can have, which is obviously on canon, but it's just, you know, full creativity and you can do whatever you want and it's flexible, versus like this, where I mean, the advantage here obviously is that because it's set in a time period that you don't really have to connect too much to everything. You can do whatever you want, but still have it be canon, but still sprinkle things around like the rest of the saga that ties everything together. Like I was mentioning with the rise of Kylo Ren, that, you know, the space station that they're on is the space station from Into the Dark, which I think is kind of, it's a little thing, but it's cool. It's like that connectivity with everything. That's fun, but doesn't bog down the amount of freedom, right, that these creatives have in terms of writing the stories they want to tell.
Yeah, and then making, you know, more representation being a part of canon, so that hopefully it'll be easier to have more representation in the bigger media because it's already been canonized here. So that's why I think it's good to have, you know, both the canon and the non-canon content.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I still think that there's I haven't read all the books, right? So maybe this is not true for some of the stories that I haven't read, but at least in these main books, right, that like I've been able to dig into, there is representation, right, and that's a positive. However, the leads are always, you know,
the cis white dude.
This is white people. So it's fine. I'm not saying that they can't ever be protagonists anymore. That's not what representation means. Before someone gets butthurt about this, it's not what it means. I'm saying that we can,
but it also doesn't
sprinkle,
just sprinkle the outside side character.
Exactly. It means that sometimes the people that we want to have represented, we also want them to have their story be
be the protagonist.
Main story. Sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes. It's like,
I think we're taking good steps in that direction, though. I mean, it doesn't have to be, you know, total 180, but I think we're getting there. I mean, I think we can still do better, but I think at least, you know, strides are being taken to get us in that direction. So
I hope it is. And it's not just, oh, let's sprinkle so we can get their money too.
No, like actually, you know, make compelling, you know, characters that, you know, look like us. So
absolutely.
So we'll see.
Well, that sounds exciting. That
I know.
So much, like, still. So, are you hopeful for the future of?
Yes, there's like zero doubt in my mind that like the future for Star Wars is bright. This is like, and this is just, you know, the
phase
publishing
one
stuff, and this is just
phase one of publishing. Yeah.
So
that's
this,
crazy.
I mean, it can only improve from here. I'm not saying that all the stories are going to be home runs. I'm sure that there might be stories that it's like, that didn't connect with me, but like we keep saying, more is better because we have, you know, a bigger galaxy and new stories to consume so that we can kind of live in this world, right, that we love so much. So definitely good. So I hope that this, what we're seeing with High Republic, again, like to hammer a point that I was saying before, it translates itself to other eras too, so that it's not just High Republic. We can see Old Republic, or like millennia before there was even a Republic, or again, or the future, or like what happened after Rise of Skywalker. So like all these like blocks of big cohesive storytelling in different eras. I think that would be like really cool, so that, you know, one, we don't exhaust ourselves with just one era, and then it keeps Star Wars fresh because we're always exploring something that's new that we haven't seen before. I think that would be really cool if they start doing that.
Even more stuff from like the point of view of the Sith would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So I think all in all, the future of a galaxy far, far away looks very bright. So I think very exciting stories are coming about, very exciting creators are getting involved in Star Wars, and I think it's good things to come.
Yeah, I think that also with all the stuff happening at Marvel, with obviously the shows and now the What If series, it's kind of a really a great moment to be a fan, because all these like weird projects are just coming out that are just doing,
that even a couple
types
of years ago we wouldn't have thought were possible, because they used to be like so constricting. Like a few years ago, I didn't think like WandaVision was something that was going to get made.
Exactly.
Loki and the way that it's been done so far, and now What If and all of that, and all the things we're seeing with visions and stories that used to be so constrictive are opening themselves up. So I think it is a really good time to be a nerd.
Oh yeah. We'll see if DC can get their their shit together and kind of
enjoying the wave.
At this point, I don't want them to get the shit together. I want it to be like the shit in the group. Like you all are flouting like how great you are. We're still campy and crappy, and we're still making the money.
True. If they embrace it, I'm all for it. But
didn't they make like a remake of Justice League all black and white?
Yep.
No, well, it's the Snyder cut.
It's the Snyder cut, but they released it in black and white. Yeah.
Because
exactly.
So it can be even more depressing.
But that's good. That's good. They are embracing their broodiness and we suck, but here's a whole movie 4 hours on black and white, so you feel that's even more broody than it was before.
I mean, it's interesting in theoretically where DC might be going, especially since they're going to embrace the multiverse or whatever they call it in DC, because Flash in particular is going to have like a couple, like Michael Keaton's Batman, so they're going to be bringing in like the timelines and stuff like that, so that could be interesting. But knowing DC, they could ruin
it up.
But now the next thing I think on the slate for DC is Suicide Squad. I see lots of people really motivated for that one, but I don't know. The trailer did nothing for me. I was like, oh, it's just James Gunn doing his Guardians of the Galaxy thing, only like DC. I don't know. I mean, I'll obviously watch it.
I'll watch
James Gunn. It'll be good. And well,
yeah, but the trailer really did nothing for me. I think it's way too many characters, and I hated the first Suicide Squad, so I don't know what to expect from this one really. So, but we'll see. I will always try to cross my fingers for DC, because I do think DC has amazing characters, but they're just not translating. It's just not working. So
the new Batman looks pretty good, though. That trailer blew me away. The Joker the Riddler seems like it's gonna be a creepy villain. The one with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
It's like, who are you? And I thought he was going to say, I'm Batman. And then it's like, I'm Vengeance. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you for not saying I'm Batman. That's so much better. And beating criminals to a pulp with his bare. I was like, yes, this is it. We'll see.
We'll see.
That's a little bit of a tangent, though, from the High Republic. But
well, because I think we just started, loving nerddom for a little bit, which is kind of the point of this podcast, because we
nerd
love
whimsies.
Star Wars, but we love the nerd whimsies as well. So,
and we'll still watch it even if it sucks.
Yeah, we'll watch it,
and we'll say it sucks. We won't just
when it sucks, we'll say it sucks.
We'll say it sucks, and if it's okay, it's okay too. It's not
sometimes
binary.
Things are just adequate. Yeah, sometimes things are just adequate.
Sometimes things are a solid 7. They're okay. They're not bad. They're not good. They're just like Solo. It's okay. Just okay. But
and in our opinion too, because some people, not everybody has to love the things that we love, and not everybody has to hate the things that we hate either. So
wait, what? Are you saying that people can have their own opinions and respect other people's opinions?
Shocking, right?
I didn't know that's how the internet worked.
Well, anyway, I think we've about covered it. I don't know if you have anything more to say about the High Republic, Goose.
I think I'll have more to say about the High Republic in future episodes once more stories come out. But I think as a good primer about our initial thoughts with the first two waves so far of the High Republic, and kind of giving everybody a crash course on what's happening, and hopefully motivate some people to pick up one of the books and see if they want to continue on this journey. But hopefully in the future, we can start releasing some book review videos for everybody, so we can talk a little bit more in depth about some of these books and other
stories,
books. But some of the reviews have been written. We just haven't recorded some of the things, so that's on the agenda for everybody. We'll have something out there so we can talk more in depth about some of the stories instead of what we did today, which is a little more global. But stay tuned. It'll happen sometime. We have jobs.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. We are Triad of the Force. You can find us wherever podcasts can be found. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram. We have t-shirts, some, and we are just, fans, and we love Star Wars and all the nerd wincy. So join us, like us, subscribe, hit that bell, and stick around. We have more to do here. So with that, may the Force be with you.